Welcome to the Daily Review. This is Razak, Senior Trading Strategist here at CMTrading. And today is July 11th, 2025, and today is Friday morning. Looking at the highlights of the market, Bitcoin explodes to new all-time record highs above 118K for the first time. Now, first, looking at today's major economic events. So out of Canada, 2:30 South African time, we have an unemployment change number coming out. Now, looking at the markets, because today is the time to trade, markets are exploding, starting out with the Forex symbols, watching the euro and the British pound taper lower, while we're seeing a mixed market there with the Australian dollar actually gaining. Now, looking at the indices, both the NASDAQ and the S&P 500 traded to new all-time record highs as well. Now, looking at commodities tapering lower, no activity because everything is focused on the U.S. markets. And talking about the stocks, Tesla gains yesterday quite nicely while the rest of the market is really mixed. And lastly, looking at Bitcoin exploding to new record highs, bringing up Ethereum and XRP as well. So let's take a look at the markets and see what we can expect from today's trading. So here we go with the GBP USD. British pound is tapering lower. Now we're at key levels, okay? So the question is whether or not this is just kind of lulling us into it and then going to break lower, or is it going to bounce? Okay, so that's where we're at right now. It's a little bit tricky because it's not going with some momentum, it's not going with some velocity, some market action, and as such, it may bounce at these levels. So just keep an eye on it for now, because we may still get that bounce. Now, the Canadian dollar did gain nicely this past week, and it does have that unemployment change numbers coming out. So looking at a weekly, it's a decent bounce, okay, for a weekly purpose, almost 1% move on the upside. However, we're still consolidating at this bottom of the move. So unless we break out, unless there's going to be some sort of breakout later today, it might just go back and test its lower self, okay, at this area that it's been trading in, 137, 16ish level to about 135.63. So it's not a bad range to actually be trading this, but just anticipate a lot of choppiness. However, I'm not going to go over the commodities because they really haven't been trading this past week. A little move in gold, but really otherwise, just whiplash in oil. So I'm going to jump into the U.S. markets, okay? Let's take a look at the NASDAQ, hitting all-time record highs yesterday, 22,900-ish level. Okay, if we look at a daily, we're just off of that all-time record highs, and that is amazing. Why is it amazing? If the stocks are not going up, but the index is going up, so one or two things are going to happen. Either the index is going to catch up to the stocks and it's going to sell off, or the stocks are going to catch up to the index and it's going to go higher. Remember, it's a futures market. Indices are future markets. Stocks are also, in a way, a future market. And we are anticipating a lot of corporate earning reports starting out even next week. We're going to start with the bank stocks and then as we move along. So this is going to be a major thing as this still unfolds. Dow Jones almost back to its record highs. Okay, but if we look at the stocks, the only one that was really amazingly green was Tesla. Okay, and Tesla got beaten up, if you remember, after Elon Musk decides that he's going to start a political party. And that is only the news, right? Company's not going out of business just because he's starting a party. But it may take some of his focus, and that was why that knee-jerk reaction happened. Once the market actually absorbed that information, you see that fade actually happen, and the stock rebounced itself above $300 a share. Now, let's take a look at the individual stocks. JP Morgan did get finally a move to the upside, and so did Bank of America just slightly. Now, Microsoft off of its all-time record highs, 505 down to 501. So just a little bit of a tapering off here at these levels, and so did NVIDIA yesterday taper off as well. But the other semiconductors, the more brick-and-mortar semiconductors, including AMD and Intel, did have a strong day yesterday and closed in its highs, towards its highs, and so did Intel. Okay, let's take a look at Intel. Intel's been very strong as it kind of coming back from itself from $17 a share. Now, it did trade much higher intervals than that in the past, above $26. It was in the $40 to $60 range at one point. So it still has way to come back, but this is when it gets kind of interesting, when it starts accumulating volume towards its resistance with momentum, and that's what we call price action, and then we move out higher. Now, the big play of the day, the Bitcoin. Now, I mentioned this, that we inched out higher. We looked like we were going to break out. And once we broke out, that's it. It exploded. to 118-ish level. Now we are getting that fade opportunity here. And the question is, I wouldn't chase it here. I wouldn't buy it here, but I would wait either for a retracement, maybe even a correctional move to test this 110, 111-ish level to see if this is a bona fide breakout. Okay, that's going to show us that it's a bona fide breakout. Until it tests its lower level, it doesn't really show us that it's a bona fide breakout. Okay, that's really important to note that. Yes, it might go even higher, but it's not necessarily going to show us that it's a solidified breakout until it tests itself one more time. This is Razak. I want to wish you guys a great trading day. Thank you.
My advice, this is the best time to trade.